today I'm going to show you how to make these yummy cupcakes. These are chocolate, dark chocolate, even though it doesn't look like it. Chocolate with coffee flavor in them, so they're kind of a coffee cupcake. Stay tuned. Okay, for this recipe, I hope I got everything laid out here right. We're going to need self-rising flour. This is Hershey's Cocoa Special Dark. It works best for making any chocolate cake recipe. 4 large eggs, butter, vegetable oil, some instant coffee, some milk, and some sugar. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is add 1 full cup of the butter and an even cup of the granulated sugar. Now we're going to let this cream until it is nice and creamy and everything's mixed together well. Okay, now this is nice and creamy, and I've turned the speed down to low. I'm going to add the eggs one at a time just to make sure, you know, in case you get a bad egg. Turn it up just a little bit. Okay, I did forget an ingredient. At this point, I'm going to add the vanilla flavoring. And I know, you know, why do you add vanilla flavoring to a chocolate cake mix? But it does enhance the flavor. So I'm going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla flavoring to this. Alright, at this point I want to add a couple of tablespoons of the vegetable shortening. This just helps it stay moist. I actually found the first time I tried creating this recipe, I think the dark cocoa makes it really dry. So you need something to moisten the cake batter a little bit. I'm also going to add a couple of tablespoons of the milk. You can use heavy cream. I just forgot to get heavy cream, so that's why I'm not putting that in there. And I'm making a friggin' mess. Now I'm going to add about 2½ level tablespoons of the dark cocoa. Like I said, that's about 2½. You let that blend well. Okay. Now what I did was I made about 3/4 of a cup, or well, it's maybe 2/3 of a cup of the coffee, the instant coffee, and I just made it really dark. You can see there. I mean, it's just really dark. I'm going to add about 2½ tablespoons of that, and that really brings out the chocolate flavor. Alright, at this point I'm going to add the flour, the self-rising flour. I like using self-rising. If you add it right, you're not going to get a dense, heavy cupcake. The trick to doing that is just adding it very slowly. So I'm going to add about 2, maybe 2¼ cups of unsifted self-rising flour, and I just add it really slow. make sure you scrape the bottom and just give it a good couple of folds in there so that everything is incorporated together good. I'm gonna mix this just a little bit longer. And while you're preparing your cake mix, you go ahead and set your oven on 350 degrees on bake. Alrighty, this is ready to scoop into the cupcake holders. Okay, you can see this actually will yield about 20 cupcakes. If I added a little less to some of them, it probably would be about 24. So the next thing I'm going to do is put them in the oven and let them bake for about 10 to 12 minutes. But you really want to keep an eye on them. For some reason, these chocolate cupcakes will burn really easy. So as soon as they're done, you want to take them out. Don't leave them a second longer. So I'm going to do that, and I will come back when they're finished baking. Alrighty, y'all. Look at there. That's what we got after about 10, maybe 12 minutes. Nice fluffy cupcakes. And they are done to perfection. They're just soft. And now I'm going to show you how to make the icing. Okay, for this step, you're going to need some powdered sugar, some Crisco shortening, because we want this to be a creamy icing. So I'm going to use Crisco instead of butter. Some vanilla, your coffee that you saved from earlier. Look at me, just all over the place with this. What else did I say? And the cocoa. The first step with this recipe, and I learned this from another YouTuber, and if I can find her video again, I will give her credit for showing how to do this. But this was the secret to making this icing really creamy. So usually you would take the powdered sugar and add it in first, and then add the other ingredients. But the way she did it was to add the shortening first. So I'm going to add about a cup, maybe slightly more than a cup. And it's good to do it this way because you have control over the consistency of the icing. You know, usually when I put the sugar in first, it might be too runny, and I've never done this with like exact measurements because it's just, you know, something I've been doing since I was a kid. My mom always baked. She used to make cakes for the neighborhood kids. And so anyway, I hope the shadow is not really bad on there. On my little screen on my camera, I can see it's really shadowed. I'm sorry if it is. So anyway, we're going to cream this shortening. And I forgot to tell you, we're going to add milk. We want this to get just really, really creamy, so I'm going to turn up the speed. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of milk. And throw it all over the place because I got it on high. About 2 tablespoons of milk. And I'm going to let that blend well and get nice and creamy, and then we'll start adding the powdered sugar. I think I want to scrape the sides down a little bit. Make sure it's all getting good and creamy. Alright, so that is really, really nice and creamy. So I'm going to take my measuring cup and start with about a cup of powdered sugar, and I'm just going to add it in really slow like I did with the flour for the cake mix. Okay, so with each cup of powdered sugar that you add, you want to let it get creamy, get good and creamy before you add anything else. And I think I'm going to go ahead with that first cup. Oh, I can hear it fluffing up. I'm going to add about a heaping tablespoon of cocoa, and about another half a tablespoon. And if that's not enough chocolate flavor to it, I'll add a little more later. And I'm going to come in with the coffee now and add about 2.5 tablespoons of the coffee. For the price you pay for these mixers, it is so irritating the way that this has a bump in the bottom of the bowl and it doesn't mix well all the way to the bottom. I have no idea why they created it like that, but for $200 and some for a mixer, this sucker shouldn't have that kind of problem. Okay, so I'm going to get another cup of the powdered sugar, and I'm going to slowly add it in. Okay, so this is getting nice and fluffy. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of vanilla, just a capful. Don't need much because we got that coffee and that chocolate in there. Okay. Now I'm going to scoop out another cupful of the powdered sugar and add it in slowly. Alright, let's go ahead and add in about another cup. Okay, I'm going to add in about another, maybe a little more than a half a cup, and I think that's going to do it. Okay, now you can see that has a nice creamy consistency, but it's thick enough to pipe because I want to decorate these for Julio's class. Just put some fancy piping on them. So I've got the cupcakes cooling in the freezer, and as soon as they are cool enough to decorate, I will show you that step. Alright, battery's almost dead, so I got to get on with this. So these have cooled down. I'm just going to show you how I'm going to do a couple of them. All parity. Too much air in my bag. I can hear it. Create an icing explosion here in a minute. Alright, so there you go. This is the chocolate, coffee, whatever you want to call it, cupcake. All handmade. Lots of fun.